Hey everybody, welcome to Reverse the Verse. It is Friday, December 2nd, 2016. I'm your host, Community Manager Jared Huckabee. For any reason you've never seen Reverse the Verse before, Reverse the Verse is Cloud Imperium Games community team's weekly chat with our developers. It's a follow-up to our flagship program Around the Verse, which airs Thursdays, roughly noon Pacific on YouTube. Basically, you check out Around the Verse, you come to here with questions about follow-ups, and we talk to some of our devs that can answer your questions from what you've seen in Around the Verse the day before. So with us today is a first-time guest here on Reverse the Verse, live from Foundry 42 UK, Mr. Barney Oram. How you doing, Barney?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
Good. And now, Barney, you are a junior sound designer.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm always a little iffy when I remember everybody's titles. Okay. So junior sound designer. So this is your first time on RTV. We've had some sound designers on before, but every episode is somebody's first. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what a junior sound designer does before we get into the questions?
It's a great job actually because it's very varied. So I kind of touch a little bit of everything in the game. Recently, I've been working on a lot of ambiences, ambience for Star Marine mainly. But I mean, I've worked on all kinds of things, all kinds of jobs that need doing. I'll head on over and cover them. So yeah, it's incredibly varied and really exciting.
Gotcha. If I remember correctly, you did some work on the Sandworm from the Homestead demo?
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
what did you do for the Sandworm?
I made a few of the vocalizations that you hear in the demo. A lot of weird things like walruses went into it.
Really?
Walruses and pigs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. How do you decide what a sandworm sounds like?
Well, we had a lot of conversation about that really because it's kind of, what would it sound like?
Don't ask me.
But I mean, a lot of a lot of trial and error, really, just playing around and trying to find things that worked and felt exciting to listen to.
Gotcha. Now, you're one of our relatively new additions to Cloud Imperium Games and Foundry 42. How long have you been working on the project?
Just under 3 months.
Just under 3 months. So you came on right before CitizenCon, and was the Sandworm like the first thing they threw you on?
Yeah, pretty much actually. Yeah. I arrived and we started working intensely on CitizenCon, and yeah, it's been a pretty crazy journey.
Gotcha. So guys who are watching from wherever you're watching, whether you're watching on our twitch.tv/CIG community channel or on our YouTube channel, we take questions from our website. So the chats are there. You can chat with the other viewers and stuff. That's fine. But if you want to submit questions to Barney and to our second guest later in the show, you're going to want to go to robertspaceindustries.com. You're going to want to click on community at the top menu and then go down to chat. We take questions from the general tab today. Please preface your question with the word question. That's how I can pick out the question chat from all the other chat that's going on. So while we wait for some questions to come in, Barney, we just saw a segment with you yesterday on Around the Verse for Star Marine. Now you talk about ambiences. I know it's obviously you do this. It sounds like a normal thing. What are ambiences as far as a game level goes?
Well, the ambience is just any sound in the environment. It's any sound in the space, and it's pretty important really because it tells the player a lot about the space that they're in, and it really informs like the character and the story of a space as well. It's great for setting a tone, setting a mood, that kind of thing. But also just on a functional level, it's just kind of the general noise emitting from things in the room.
It's really, in my experience, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, you're the audio guy, I'm not, the ambient sounds are really what brings a level to life. It's what makes it from a static, empty warehouse. And an empty warehouse with no sounds can be very eerie and very disturbing. But if you're wanting a living, breathing environment, ambiences are some of the most important aspects of level design.
Yeah, absolutely. When we started working on Echo 11, which is our kind of huge map that's going out in Star Marine, I was really excited because Echo 11 visually has so much going on and so much character. The opportunity to put sound to enhance that character and to enhance the story of the space was it's fantastic, really. I mean, I hope that I've done it justice, really.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. So the questions have started coming in. Now, guys, of course, Barney is a junior sound designer. So I know we get the everybody's got questions about all kinds of matters. Star Citizen is a very broad project covering a wide range of wide range of topics. But for our purposes today, for at least the next couple minutes, Barney is sound. So if you're asking him, when the Banner Merchantman is coming out, Barney's probably not going to be able to answer that question. So if you're wondering, why isn't my question getting answered, that's probably why. So Barney, there are some, right off the bat, we have a question. What would a baby pet sound word sound like, and can you make the noise now?
No, I can't.
It's entirely possible I added that last part on the end.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Sorry, I tried, Xiphon. I tried. All right. So another question. Good work on your segment in ATV. Is this the first game that you've worked on?
It actually is, yes. Previous to this, I was at university. So it's the first game I've ever worked on, pretty much ever, really.
Gotcha. And have you done any work on? I know you've only been here 3 months. Have you done any work on ships at all? Ship sounds?
No, actually, ships are covered by one of our senior guys pretty much entirely. Darren covers those.
Darren Lambourne.
Yes.
Yep. Did I say his last name right?
You did.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I usually assume I've said it wrong. I'm terrible with names. All right, so here's another question from the chat. When designing sounds, do you actually study different rooms and try different actual physical locations to drive it, or do you just make up whatever sounds correct?
It really depends. If I just jump in and start putting stuff down and it doesn't sound right, I might start thinking about where I can take inspiration from and where I can kind of draw ideas from that will go into the way I create. But then a lot of the time as well, sometimes I'll just see things and I'll be like, I know exactly what I want that to sound like. And it's kind of, you have a sense of the canon of sci-fi and of games and that kind of thing. So it's a very mixed bag. It depends how the process ends up, really.
Gotcha. Here's a question. I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it. Will we see famous sounds in the game as nods to previous work, like Doom's door noise or the Wilhelm scream?
Probably not. No.
Probably not. No. It's one of the tenets of Star Citizen's design philosophy is immersion. So as much as I enjoy a good Wilhelm scream for every now and then, I think seeing one in the middle of Star Citizen might break that immersion.
It's an interesting one, that with sound people. Actually, it's kind of revered. Really, people don't really like to touch it. It's kind of a joke, I think. But yeah.
All right, so yep. What will the Banner Merchantman sound like, guys? Come on. No, he hasn't worked on any ships or whatnot. But let's see. Will there be as many sound sources in the PU as there will be on FPS maps? Now, again, you've only been here 3 months. You've been working on Star Marine stuff, but maybe you've had this discussion with others. Do you know anything about the sound design for the PU?
A little bit. Obviously, the PU is going to be a hell of a lot bigger and a hell of a lot more varied. So
at least 2-3 Star Marine maps.
Yeah.
At least
we're thinking about how we can kind of create a lot more variation. Like the Star Marine maps are very focused and like the sound really does one job. Whereas the PU, obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on there. So we have to cover it in lots of different ways. So.
Yeah, all right, here's another question from chat. Do you play the game much? And if so, what sounds do you admire in the current state of the game?
I play it a lot, yeah. We do playthroughs twice a week that I jump in on from time to time. And when I'm working on it, I run around and shoot things quite a lot on my own.
Yeah. Now, those are the dedicated playthroughs. We every studio schedules, just so for folks know what's going on. Every studio schedules a specific playthrough, sometimes two, every week, where we try to get as many people in, and then we go and we test certain facets. But that's the dedicated time to try to get a bunch of people in, and then as you walk through any office, I see it a lot when I was in Foundry back in August. You will see people playing throughout the day, and when it's an integral part of testing any design.
Absolutely, yeah. It's difficult to get a feel for the game if you don't actually play it, so it's pretty important.
Gotcha. So, some of the maps have zero-G sections, exterior. Do you design ambient sounds for the exterior as well?
We actually haven't yet, and that's something we're kind of thinking about. A lot of people, yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, Star Citizen is aiming for realism, but Star Marine is really kind of. We want it to be a relatively arcadey experience. We want it to be a fun experience. So it's kind of where the line is between realism and enjoyment. So it might have background ambience. It might not. We'll see.
It's a good point to bring up that gets lost quite often. Star Citizen is the game. Star Citizen is the product that we're putting out. Star Marine is a game within that game universe. Absolutely. So it is while it will be great for simulating many of the FPS mechanics and stuff, it is a more arcadey, that's the word. It's same with Arena Commander. It is a more arcadey version meant to be a standalone kind of, experience within the Star Citizen universe. So we do take a few liberties with Star Marine and Arena Commander that you may not see in the persistent universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's an interesting balance. I hear discussions about this constantly about we want it to reflect, we want it to be a good training area for life in the persistent universe, but at the same time, this is our chance to gamify things a little bit. You see that with the new missile pickup system in Arena Commander, where you can fly around and you pick up, when you blow up a ship, it drops a little glowy thing, you fly through it and you pick up missiles. That obviously won't be a mechanic in the PU, but it's a thing that we can do in Arena Commander to make it a bit more gamey, I guess.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah. Let's see, what other questions do we have here? We're almost out of time with Barney already. What do we got here? Looking for. So. No questions on voice yet, guys. You might be hearing something more about voice in the future. He hasn't worked on ships. We're looking for a bunch of questions about ships, guys. Okay. How will things like glass breaking affect ambient sounds? Now, we played a little bit of Star Marine on Demian Station on our anniversary live streams, and folks saw that we could shoot through these giant panes of glass and break them. How do you do that with ambient sounds?
Yeah, this is something we have been thinking about a lot. Obviously, at the moment, what we have in Star Marine is a kind of pressurization and depressurization. So when you exit the station through the little force field airlock things, it pulls the sound out into this kind of filtered thing that's supposed to emulate the sound of you being in space. But obviously with breakable windows, that would theoretically depressurize the whole station. And that is a system that we're looking to implement, but obviously we'll have to really think about how it will sound after it's been depressurized, because it just basically sucks all of the sound out of the space. Yeah, we're working on that.
Yes, the version of Star Marine that goes out in Alpha 2.6 is the very first iteration. Like Arena Commander before it will continue to iterate and continue to be built on, not just in audio, but in visual and in effects and in game modes and all that stuff. So,
yeah.
So. All right. Here's a question. Where'd it go? I lost it. What got you started in sound design? Did you know it was something you always wanted to do, or did you evolve into it?
I kind of evolved into it. I made music for a lot of my life, electronic music and that kind of thing, and eventually got interested in sound design through my studies at university. And yeah, I kind of married my love of games with my love of sound, and that's what brought me to this position now.
All right. Let's see if we can get one more here, and then one more to send you out here. All right. Concerning Star Marine's gameplay, what other FPSs did you get inspiration from when designing sound for Star Marine?
A big one I think a lot of us have been influenced by is Mass Effect. especially 3, we've looked at and been quite inspired by the way the sounds work in that. We've also just been playing general FPSs quite a lot, some of the COD games and things like that. But yeah, it's quite a mixed bag of inspirations.
All right. Well, Barney, thanks for taking the time to sit down with us and chat. Guys, that was Barney Oram. He's a junior sound designer. If you haven't seen a segment on yesterday's ATV, you can check that out on our YouTube page. It's Around the Verse 3.15 from ATV. It went up yesterday around noon. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to lead technical designer John Crew. He's the guy that's going to be able to answer all your ship questions. So, Barney, thanks, and we'll be right back, guys.
Goodbye.
And we're back. Guys, we're here for part 2 of our RTV today with lead technical designer out of Foundry 42 UK, no stranger to Reverse the Verse. We've had you on a couple times now, Mr. John Crew. How you doing, John?
Hello, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, so welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back again.
Thank you for doing this. I just saw your shirt for the first time. What is that?
This lovely shirt.
Hold on, stand up, let me see it.
It's nothing.
Oh. I want the shirt. Can you send me the shirt?
Come and get one.
I was just there. It wasn't there when I was there. All right, so John Crew, you are lead technical designer. Every episode of Reverse the Verse is somebody's first. So why don't you start us off real quick by telling us what a lead technical designer does?
So I lead a team of 6 technical designers here. We do quite a varied amount of design work. We do lots of ship briefs. We take the briefs from Ben, Chris, then directors, flesh them out into full design specs, guide the concepts, and get them all the way into the game fully. We do all the balance work for both PU, AC, Star Marine, Squadron work. We do help with Squadron as well, and just general design that isn't hands-on level design, really.
Gotcha. Now, guys, remember, we are taking questions from our RSI chat. That's on robertspaceindustries.com. You go to community, you go to chat, and inside the general tab, please preface your questions with the word question, surrounded by brackets. That'll help me pull it out from the rest of the chat. Now, John, while people are, I imagine people are forming many ship questions. Your segment on ATV yesterday dealt with flight balance changes.
Yep.
That's been a big focus of the upcoming 2.6. We've had a version of 2.5 with the first iterations of those flight balance changes in the hands of Evocati for some time. For quite a few weeks now, actually, right? We just rolled out the 2.6 version to them this week. What can you tell us about the kind of the feedback that you've gotten from this and how that's affected what we've been doing?
We've got tons of feedback from it.
There's no shortage of feedback.
No shortage of feedback. I've got messages on the forums. I've got people on Discord talking to me. Someone even sent me an email through my portfolio website about their thoughts on the matters. Lots of people like it. Some people dislike it. Some people were really, really against it. And when they've realised, actually, no, it's not what they thought it was, they've come around to it. It's one of those things. It's very hard to explain and show visually without them playing it.
Yeah, we've tried a couple times now.
Yeah, we're getting there, but it's until you play it, it's hard to make a call on it. And with what the Evocati builds are playing, it's still not where it's going to be. There's still more to come. So we're still listening to their feedback. And quite a lot of it is stuff we're going to be doing anyway, and we just haven't had the chance to do yet.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges of building a game out in front of people.
Yes,
it's just about every other game in the universe. We things get to 85%, 95%, and then they go into alpha, beta, and the first people start seeing it like this. We are building this game out in front of everybody, so people are seeing the earliest iterations of things, and it's very easy to assume that this is the final version, like
Yes.
the stuff that they're playing is how we intend it, and it's not. It's nobody's fault. It's what everybody's used to. It's one of the ways that we're changing, the way games are made. So
Yeah.
it's always very important to remember that what you're playing now are the earliest iterations, even at this point in development. And many of these systems are coming online for the very first time. So these are the earliest iterations of power management and Afterburner instead of Cruise and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I've worked on games in the past where we've worked on something for 3 years and the public have no idea that it even existed, and then it's been canned.
Gotcha.
And it's doing it all in front of people is certainly a challenge, and a great one at that.
Gotcha. All right, so we got some questions coming in now, so we'll start taking them from the chat right off the bat. With the lower speeds, can we expect rotations like rolls and pitch to feel snappy? Crisp rotation seems to be a key for feeling like you're in control of your ships.
Yes, that is all planned. It obviously depends on your ship. You're not going to expect your Starfarer to roll as quickly as your M50. And that's just an ongoing tuning process. We did as I think as I said in ATV, we've done a pass on every single ship in the game, every single weapon, every single shield, thruster. They've all changed since 2.5 Live, and they're all still changing. We're still getting changes from John Pritchett in, and some of that invalidates changes we've done.
Yeah.
For good reason. And it's a sort of a juggling act between changing stuff to get an approximation of where we want it to be, so people can test that and validate what we're thinking, whilst knowing that change is going to go in the bin very soon when the new code comes online, and we have to set it up to get the same effect in a slightly different way. So sometimes we just don't do that because just the hours spent doing that change is not worth it when you know it's going to instantly be fixed later.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned all our ships. Star Citizen has a healthy amount of ships
Yes.
in the game already, and still many more coming in. How important is it that these ships feel different from each other?
It's massively important, we feel. And it's not something you can do quickly. I forget off the top of my head the amount of actual flyable ships in game at the moment. It's 40 something. It's over 40 because the example I use to people when someone goes, "Oh, can you just change this and check it in for all the ships?" And it's like, well, if that takes an hour to do that change and test and get it verified by QA times by 40, that's one person's week gone to do that one change. So when we're having to do these large changes, it's multiple people to get it in that time period, or it's the one person going through it. And we have one person on it full time, and he's been on it full time for months now. And then I drag in extra people off my team to help give him support when it's needed, when we have to get something in quickly.
Gotcha. So when folks are flying a specific ship and so for the person who only owns one ship, and they get in there and they fly it, that is how that ship flies in Arena Commander now, or the Persistent Universe now. It's not necessarily how that ship will fly later. It's not necessarily how other ships may handle. So it's a very Star Citizen suffers from no lack of complexity in that regard.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about the rec system, allowing you to rent other ships, try before you buy. Maybe if somebody is struggling with the flight model or the flight characteristics of that one ship, maybe it's just not a match between that person and that ship. Maybe there might be another ship that might match better with that pilot. It's like that. Those are cool aspects of Star Citizen. One of the things I've always been looking forward to back from the days when I was a fan. All right, so what else do we?
That doesn't mean that we can just sit there and be happy with some ships how they fly. That one person, he might want to buy his Aurora with his starter package, and he just wants to use that forever. And that doesn't mean we can just go, well, the Auroras, they're rubbish. They're going to fly rubbish forever. They've still got to be good.
Yep. And then there's not
as good as others, but
and then there's the upcoming component system and stuff. Folks will be able to adjust how those ships handle to some degree, correct?
Yes, correct. So beyond all the stuff everyone knows about shields, power plants, coolers, which have not direct interactions with the flight handling to the extent like changing your thrusters. So we're looking at you'd be able to swap out your thruster sets. We'd have an item. At the moment, the thruster items themselves generate their own thrust and consume a little bit of power to do that. We want to try and move away from that to have an actual engine item which generates thrust. That can be changed out, so that can generate more thrust into the same thrusters you have, so they have a bit more capability. Or you can have a different thruster set which uses that thrust in a different way. So you could go and get a racing Aurora thruster set off the top of my head. That would improve the performance of those thrusters for racing. So maybe they will maneuver into position a bit quicker. Maybe they have a bit quicker jerk or acceleration at the expense of perhaps durability or wear.
Gotcha.
So that level of customization on your thrusters and your handling.
So not only are we still working on the flight characteristics of all these ships, but at some point the players will be able to affect the flight characteristics of a ship.
Totally, and obviously damage and wear will come into that. So if you're hammering your thrusters in a certain behavior, you're going to have to expect that certain thrusters are going to wear out more.
Gotcha.
Everything you do will have consequences. So it's sort of, if you want to do that behavior, then perhaps you need to invest in an industrial set of thrusters, which will allow you to do that for longer with less penalty.
Okay, cool. Here's a question. Will fuel act the same in the PU as it does in Arena Commander? Slow drain of fuel at full cruise does not make much sense in space, says this person.
So it is going to behave the same, but the way you replenish fuel will differ between the PU and AC. So in 2.6, we're going to have pickups in AC. So when you destroy other opponents, they will drop behind like some ammo, missile, fuel pickup. So you'll be able to, because it is an arcade simulation in the game, we don't want you to just like have to hover around or just stay there for ages replenishing your fuel. You'll be able to get in there, get your fuel back. Whereas in the PU, obviously those things don't exist. You'll have to regenerate your fuel by using your fuel intakes or going to Cryastro and refueling like that. As for using fuel, I can't remember what the last bit of the question was, is using fuel.
Using fuel when you're at full cruise.
Yes, so it's something we briefly touched on in ATV yesterday, but because we talked for like over an hour for the footage for that and it had to get edited down, at the moment you use your hydrogen fuel to get up to your top afterburn speeds, which are approximate of what cruise used to be, because cruise as a IFCS flight mode has gone away and been replaced by this increased afterburn. When you reach it's not your top afterburn speed, it's because it's based on your throttle. So if you only put your throttle at 50%, you would only get your 50% speed. When you hit that goal speed, your thrusters go into this, what we internally call like a afterburn idle. So there's just like a very light tick over of power, fuel, heat consumption, generation that keeps going when you're in that state. It's very small. It's there. So there is a small penalty for doing long distance travel. We were talking with Chris about this, and it is very, if you want to go a long distance, that's what quantum travel's for. If you want to do the sort of mid distance travel, you'll be able to use this to do it. But if you're in a ship that's not really designed to do it, you're going to expect to stop in there. It's not going to be stopping every 30 seconds or a minute. It's going to be minutes and minutes of time that you can go for before you have to think about. It might not even be kicking you out because you've run out. It might be, I've been traveling for 10 minutes now at my top afterburn speed. My heat has slowly ticked up to the point where I'm becoming more visible to others, or my power plant isn't giving me enough power to maintain this. So if someone attacks me, I can't use my shields at full speed, or I can't use my weapons. I have to start making this choice. And obviously, you'll be able to change and customize that with all the different ship components. You get a better power plant, will allow you to do that for longer. Better coolers will negate that effect. And the consumption of fuel, generation of heat, and the consumption of power in this afterburn idle state is very low. It's not the same rate as it currently is in the Evocati build, where it's quite drastic, for lack of a better word. And that's sort of some of the concerns people have had. They've seen as afterburn up, it's taken 60% of the fuel to get there, and then they're getting kicked out straight away again and drop back to SAM speed. That's not what we want to have happen. You'll get to that speed, you'll sort of maintain that velocity, coupled or decoupled, until you give an input to change direction or drop speed, and have this very minor penalty. Some ships, their fuel intakes will perhaps be able to match that if it's designed as like a long distance cruiser. Others, like racers, probably not.
All right, cool. All right, we have a question. I'll see if you can answer this. This comes up quite a bit. The Caterpillar front spike and prong things. What the hell are they?
We were talking about this the other day. So where it is at the moment is the original concept.
One of our earliest concepts.
One of our earliest ones, and I think it varied between the concept images as well. One of them had them looking like guns. The others were sort of like big spiky bits. And the way it is at the moment, they're not guns. They're not planned to be guns, because I think they come out to something like size 6 guns if they were to be size 6. Or if they were to be guns, it's getting a bit over the top. So they are purely decoration at the moment. They're not like the Glaives blades or anything like that. So unfortunately, you're not going to be slicing ships in half with your Caterpillar.
Although I'm certain some people will try.
You will try. You could probably do quite a bit of damage doing it, but it's not their intended purpose, and they're also not guns.
Gotcha. All right. Another question from chat. Is physicalized damage and penetration still coming? Is that still on the books?
It's still on the books. It won't be in 2.6 though.
Okay.
In fact, actually, penetration is in 2.6 in Star Marine.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not there for the ship weapons yet.
Okay. How does removing cruise mode affect non-combat medium-range flying? I think we actually sort of went into that already.
I think so as well.
Sorry, guys. Let's see. Is there a pic you can flash of a new Banu Merchantman concept? Nope. Nope.
Can't talk about that.
Can't talk about that. Not yet. Its time will come, guys. How do you envision a slow ship escaping a very fast and nimble ship with the new system?
Slowly is probably the answer to that. For the example, I'd presume like Starfarer sized or bigger versus like say a Buccaneer. They will be able to throttle up and afterburn. It's going to take them a while to get going, but the bigger ships have higher afterburn speeds. The same for it's like the carriers eventually will have some of the fastest afterburn speeds. So once they get going and they're at that speed, you won't be able to really catch up with them with afterburn in the smaller fighters. You'll have to quantum ahead and sort of try and intercept them that way, or use equal ships to get there. So for the big ships, it's really about defending yourself long enough during that period where you're trying to get away, because you will do eventually if you stay intact. You've got countermeasures, you've got hopefully turrets and people capable of using them on there to ward them off. Big ships are pretty tough, so they could take a bit of damage.
All right. Here's another question from the chat. When boosting while at full afterburner speed, does maneuverability improve, or is it still the typical limitation we saw with cruise speed?
Currently, it is the typical implementation. It's currently doesn't change it. I was talking with John Pritchett about this. So I was talking in the Epicati chat earlier about this. John can give a really fantastic explanation of why the current rotational restrictions
John,
are in there.
he's not here.
He's not here. But it's, and I'll do a very poor explanation of it.
Nah, you're doing fine.
So if you're going at your top afterburn speed and you start moving, it's quite restricted at the moment, like cruise was, because IFCS calculates your nice trajectory in a nice big circle. If we don't have that restriction currently, as you start turning, your velocity or speed starts reducing. So IFCS calculates a slightly different trajectory. And then it goes, oh, wait, no, I'm not supposed to be pointing this way. I'm supposed to be pointing to do the previous one. So then you just start doing this weird zigzag around. And that feels really bad. So that's why the current, I personally think they're a bit too much. And we're working with John. We've got lots of ideas bounced between us, between lots of the designers on how we can make that feel better. It's simply mirroring what we had with Cruise in 2.5. So we have something there to work from whilst we try and work out what's a happy medium. Yeah, it's something we know about.
Now, we talked earlier about the different components and how you'll be able to customize your ship and your flight handling. Will there be alternative IFCSs that people can use? Could people? Is that something that might be on the books? Be able to swap out one IFCS with another one that maybe favors a particular type of flight mechanic? Or flight
it's something we've discussed, and something we're going to look at to some extent. I can't really say for definite what level it will be, but the current lines of thinking is we're going to have your computer blades that go in your racks, and there'd be an advanced IFCS one, which gives you, if you imagine the current game today, like ComStab is on or off, GSafe is on or off, and these blades would allow you on your MFDs to set, I don't want it just on or off, I want it 50% of the current value, so you can fine tune how much you want of each of these features. That's the sort of current lines of thinking that we're going to go with that.
All right. So nothing promised, just something that we're talking about and looking into.
It's one of John's tasks after he's doing the missile stuff at the moment, and then the changes to Afterburn after that, which today hopefully you should start on that. It's on his list is sort of moving IFCS out of the ship implementation XMLs into its own item, which will allow us to do this down the line.
Gotcha. You mentioned missiles. Do the speed changes affect missile and ballistic speeds as well?
Yes. So because we changed the combat speeds, we changed all the afterburn speeds, we had to change all the weapon and missile speeds, because otherwise it would have been hilariously overpowered one way or the other.
Yes.
So they all had to pass. We've tried to move the weapons into sort of categories rather than going a size 1 repeater has similar properties to a size 1 cannon. It's now cannons have this set of parameters, repeaters have this set of parameters, and within that the ranges go up or down in various stats, and there is a bit of overlap. Missiles, they've got a huge change that went in today that we're looking at changing, and that totally changes how the guidance works on them, and it's looking really nice. I think in 2.5 at the moment, and certainly in the 2.6 Epicati build, if a missile misses you, it almost instantly spins on the spot to come back at you, which isn't great, but is a byproduct of the old guidance system. To be able to get it to sort of maneuver really quickly, it has to do that, and unfortunately when it misses, it then has the ability to flip 180 and come back at you. This morning we were playing around with it, and it does nice, if it misses, it does a nice sweeping arc background.
All right. John Pritchett is here in the LA office. I was joking he's on the other side, but I saw him working on something yesterday. Now I know what it was.
It'd be that.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Let's get one or two more before we let you go. Thank you again for taking this time for us.
It's okay.
I'm skipping past a whole lot of questions about the Caterpillar front prongs. It's
Sorry.
people are suggesting all kinds of stuff that they could be. Guys, we have a subforum for the Drake Caterpillar in our shipyard section, so that would be the place to make those suggestions. And I know for a fact that John Crew reads those subforums. So here's an interesting one: will there be third-party body kits, like different seats, different materials, for ships? It's very common. Like people buy their stock Honda Civic, and then they put spoilers and stuff like that.
Big exhaust.
Has there been any talk at this point about doing something similar for our ships?
Not yes and no. So we haven't thought about it in ways of like, here's a body kit that changes the external geometry, but some of the individual parts we've talked about, like swapping the internal seats out. So you're bored of your bog standard Aurora seating, you want your fancy leather version of it, or your racing bucket seat version of it, things like that. I believe one of the stretch goals is cockpit decorations, so there'll be some extent in there. Paint system, which we talked about in the last
recently,
anniversary live stream, that we'll be able to do that on the and the outside, but nothing like along the lines of huge vents and the opening up on the outside of your ship.
Now that is just because I know what the follow-up questions are going to be here. That's outside of the F7A body kit that we sold.
Yes.
almost 2 years ago. That's something, when the time comes, we'll work on implementing that. But what John's talking about is a more robust system for the ships as a whole.
There's a couple of ships as well like that as well. Like the Freelancer variants have very subtle body variants to it.
All right. And the cockpits to the Cutlass.
Yes.
Something like that. So, all right. What else do we got here? Just seeing that same body kit question a couple times. I turn off auto scroll, guys. So you only need to submit your question once. If we can ask it, we'll ask it. So, then there's a bunch of Lando won't answer our questions. I understand that we cannot just keep accelerating with burner. Why can we not just stay at the top burner speed without using it? I think he's talking about momentum. What's stopping us from just after burning up to top speed and then turning afterburner off and just cruising at momentum?
So that's an actual flaw with the current implementation that John will be fixing. So I think I said this earlier, when you get to that top speed that you've desired to get to and you let go of afterburn, it will keep you in that afterburn idle state, which is a massively reduced fuel cost. But you keep your momentum, you'll be able to decouple, do whatever you want in decouple, maintain that momentum. Even if you're not in decoupled, you'll still stay at that speed. As for staying at that speed rather than going off to infinity, it's one of those game things. We need to keep it sensible. I would love to have people going at millions of kilometers an hour across the levels, but it's sadly not fun.
Yeah,
we tried as a test internally, put in I think a cap of 3,000 or 4,000 SEM on ships, and the physics guys in Frankfurt got very unhappy.
All right. Well, John, that's it. Thank you for your time here on Reverse the Verse. No folks watching at home, whatnot. Next, that's Reverse the Verse. Right now, there's check out the newsletter that's coming later on today. Actually, it should become. We're at 8:45 in the morning here, so the newsletter will be coming out later today. Don't forget your production calendar update that comes later today. Next week, keep an eye out for our December or our November monthly report. And so and then coming soon, the holiday live stream. So expect some more information from that coming up soon. Oh, and one more piece of housekeeping from ATV yesterday. In the spectator cam segment, the folks wanted me to let you know that when you're saving camera modes, it's not just F4 1 2 3, it's F4 1 through 9. So you'll be able to save the entire number row of cameras for you. So John, thanks again for taking the time to talk with us. And guys, that was Reverse the Verse. Take it easy. Where's my button? There it is.